Okay, I think we're on. Hello, everybody. It's Kelly from Ready Set Drone. I have my AirPods in, so you guys let me know if you can hear me. Um, I might even.
Okay, I
Oh,
think we're
yep, I can hear me on my computer, which is right here. Wow, what a week it has been. We have had spin up last week, last Saturday. At this point yesterday we were doing rehearsals and running through a bunch of stuff, and man, it was great. I really appreciate everyone who tuned in, everyone who was there speaking, all of the people that came in via Skype, all of the sponsors. It was just an amazing event, and so thank you guys for tuning in. I see Fly Natural, I see Chris Hope, I see John from Mappers 2, I see Brad, my brother Brad from Virginia, I see Steve Carpenter. So good to see you guys. Thank you for tuning in tonight. It's going to be a really good show because I've got someone who is a an expert, an actual. All right, Joshua Goldenberg. Good to see you, Joshua Goldenberg. Joshua Goldenberg. Um, Good to see you, bud. Thanks for tuning in. So I've got someone who is truly an expert in a lot of things, but especially in FPV and antennas. Now, I know a lot of us are drone pilots who have started off or are still flying a lot of stabilized DJI gimbal drones, which is absolutely awesome. But this is going to be good information, not only if you want to get into flying FPV, but this is also going to be great information for getting better performance out of the antennas, range, and reception on your regular DJI drones. This guy, uh, Doc Murdock, has been to both spin ups, the live ones. So you probably met him if you were here at one of those, or if not, he's been all over the FPV community as well as the drone community. And I'm super excited to have him on. So I'm going to go ahead and invite him. He's coming in from, I think, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing?
Hey, Kelly. Yeah, no, it's Silver City, New Mexico, actually.
Silver City. How far is that from
Yep.
Albuquerque?
About 4.5 hours south.
Oh goodness. Okay. So you're down. Are you down near like Deming?
Yes, I'm about 40 minutes north of Deming.
Okay. Yeah, I've driven through Deming. I used to have a job where I drove and set up AV stuff in California, and I would drive equipment from Austin all the way to San Francisco or LA or wherever our show was, and I would always drive through Deming, New Mexico. And I remember they have the Great Duck Race, right?
Yeah, they do some crazy things down there.
Well, hey man, good to see you. So I was kind of talking you
Absolutely.
up, as you might have caught before.
Yep.
You've been to both spin ups, and you watched
Yes.
this year's spin up. Let's talk about that for just a minute, because you and
Oh my
I
goodness.
started
Start
to
to
talk about it
finish.
yesterday. You watched the whole thing, 4.5 hours.
Yep. Start to
That,
finish.
and your wife as well, right?
Yes, we both sat there and enjoyed it. Some of the grandkids sat and watched some of it occasionally. So yeah, we had a blast.
They said those old people are crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. The kids know I'm nuts.
Well, no, I was talking about us. I was talking about puppets and beers and FPV. Well, so
Oh my
so
goodness,
you
yeah.
you said you had a favorite character, and it wasn't one of the YouTubers. Who was your favorite character?
Oh my goodness, it was Boozy Bob.
Boo, here
That
here here's
that
to
was
Boozy
a
Bob.
oh my goodness, that was just a hoot. Oh wait a minute, we got to do the Boozy Bob right there, man.
Yeah, there's
Got to
there's
have the drink.
cheers to Boozy Bob. So Dobo punched him in the eye, and he survived. He did okay,
Yep.
but it was just kind of funny because we did that puppet for a video, a traffic safety, defensive driving
Hmm.
video a couple of months ago, and it's just been sitting in the lobby of my building for a long time. And somebody picked it up and said, "All right, I gotta get Boozy Bob in here," and so they brought him on set.
Oh yeah.
And then
Oh
Brennan from Droner is like, he was awesome. He got down under the
yep.
table and was doing the whole thing. It was
Yep.
awesome.
All he needed was a mic on him. That would have been just so fun to hear him.
Well, I think the biggest thing is he said he didn't really do accents, but he made up this kind of like, gruff accent. That kind of fun deal.
Yep.
So you guys watched from the house, and
Yep.
I think you're coming to spin up, right? Or spin down.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We will be there.
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about for the future of this whole thing was possibly having spin up being more of an online thing and spin down being more of the meetup. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, this is certainly, very cliche, but this is a weird year across the across the board.
Oh yeah, this has been a lot of craziness with all this.
But I do think that forcing myself and kind of other people who have gotten into doing live streaming to do more live stuff like this has been a good thing. So, oh, by the way, I want to say hi to Rick Halber real quick. Rick sent me the cutest video of, I assume his I'm gonna say granddaughters. If they're your daughters, Rick, then you're much younger than I thought. But his granddaughters in Ready Set Drone shirts, and thank you for sending that, Rick. That really made my day. Yeah, they were. I'd sent him when he was subscriber of the month. I'd sent him a Lego kit, and I guess they had built it together because they were showing me the Lego kit. So yeah, it was all cool. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
Oh, goodness.
Doc Murdock. First question? Where did the name come from?
Oh, that's a bit of a story. It originated back in the 80s when I was flying nitro helicopters. I had a friend where I was working at a car dealership as a mechanic. He was the salesman, and I was flying a very large nitro helicopter, and he just said it's nothing but a toy. And I argued with him, said, no, it's not a toy. It's a real helicopter. It's just miniaturized. And he says, no, it's just a toy. So I pulled it out, fired it up, flew it within a 20-foot wide gap between a block wall and the building, back and forth.
What was the span on the blade?
69 inches.
Oh, geez. So almost 6 feet.
Yeah, it was over 5 foot. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
So that is a quite large helicopter. And I flew it back and forth, set it down, looked at him. He said one word. He said, Murdoch, crazy Murdoch. And that comes from back in the 80s when they had the A-Team.
Yes! I thought Mr. T, B.A. Baracus. Yep. Murdoch, you're crazy. I'm not getting on that damn thing. No, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yep. And that's where that came from.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
The Doc part came from paintball. Pretty much like anybody that had a broken gun could just walk up to me and hand me the gun, tell me it's not working, and I could have it apart in seconds and know what was wrong with it and be able to repair it and hand it back to them. So I just got the nickname of Doc, being able to work on everything, being able to fix things. Gotcha. So the two just kind of fit together. So that ended up being the name.
So yeah, so you're Murdoch from the A-Team. I loved the A-Team growing up. That was one of my favorite shows. I loved how the bad guys and the good guys could fire machine guns like just 1,000 bullets and no one ever got hit. And they always made it a point to do the cutaway shot of the bad guys after they'd been shot at, like climbing out of the wreckage. Those guys got away. It was
all part of the game.
So for the kids in the audience, go watch the A-Team. You have to watch one episode.
Watch the old A-Team, okay, not the new one.
Was there a new one?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know they had done another one. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they did a I believe it was a movie remake.
Yeah. No, you got to watch the original. The show was dun 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 dun.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I asked this trivia question of Ken Herron. I think I asked it at dinner. And I want to say, I think it was the same person. Do you know the guy? Can you name the person? Anyone in the chat name the person who did the theme for the A-Team, the Rockford Files, Magnum PI? One guy did that. Now Ken came back with asking me who did the theme song for Miami Vice, which was Jan Hammer. But who can name who did the Rockford Files, the A-Team, and Magnum PI? Any thoughts?
I'd have to go dig it up. Yeah, I didn't even know that.
So the reason I know it is I loved TV themes, and I bought the 45 record of all of those. Like when they came out, I had the 45 of remember the Rockford Files?
Oh yeah.
And of course, anyway, it was Mike Post was the person. Jan Hammer. That's Lord Excess says Jan Hammer. That was correct for Miami Vice, but. Anyway, so we are not here to talk about old TV shows. We're here to talk about antennae and such. As a matter of fact, I just recently upgraded my antennas on this guy. I don't know if you can see him there.
Let me look up here. Yeah. Oh yeah, you got the little stubbies. Okay.
They're little stubbies. They're lower profile, and the reason I like them is because I can actually put this thing in the case with these on. The DJI ones stick out too far, and I feel like they're going to break.
They have an advantage. I mean, they really do for portability, but you do sacrifice things.
Well. So Original Dobo told me he thought these actually got better range than the originals. Is that? Do you think that's
very
possible?
Well may. Oh yeah, they very well may. Because what you have to remember about commercially made antennas is that they're mass produced, which means that they have a set criteria that they manufacture each component to. But when they're being assembled, their quality control isn't always the highest. So
True.
They're mass produced to a point where it's an acceptable frequency response.
Tolerance. Yeah.
Tolerant. So that's the trade-off versus a lot of what I do. I actually cut and make all my antennas to the high end of the FPV frequency range because I know that there's inconsistencies in the assembly, which consequently lowers the frequency response. Where if you cut it for the middle of the band and assemble it, then the antenna resonates at the low end of the band. And if you're operating on the high end of the band, you're giving up range because the antennas aren't matched.
Well, so help us understand. There's no moving parts in an antenna, right? It is literally just a piece of metal. Isn't that right?
Yes, but it is cut to a resonant frequency. And there's a lot of little bits and pieces that go along with that. But effectively, that's what it is. For every given frequency, there is a length of the driven side of the element because there's two sides to the antennas, which is the driven side and the ground plane, or sometimes it's the reflector side, depending on how it's built.
Okay.
And that creates what is called a dipole. And
a dipole antenna. I've heard that term.
Correct. Right. So a dipole antenna is fed from the center, and the driven element is on the one side, which is the center conductor, and the ground side is on the braided side, 180 degrees to the other. That is a dipole. But dipoles come in many fashions. You've got dipoles that are the vertical style, which is like, let's see, where did I set it? Here we go. This right here is considered a dipole, but this is actually a folded dipole.
Okay.
So
wow.
This resonates where the coax comes up here. This antenna actually resonates at 300 ohms as opposed to 50 ohms, which is what dipoles resonate at, and what all of your radio equipment is designed to operate at. So
that's the same shape that I have on my X-Lite FreeSky X-Lite.
Yes.
I have the same shape on the back of that.
See, now the catch is, though, being these resonate at 300 ohms, you have to match these in some way, shape, or form. The diamond antennas and all the other ones that are mass produced by TBS and a number of others, they match it a couple of different ways. The way I chose to match mine is with a quarter wave piece of coax. And what it does is it matches the 300 ohms down to around 50 ohms. And that gets your good impedance match is what it's called. And then I add the reflector on the backside for directivity to where the majority of the RF energy goes out the front and not just all the way around me, because most of the time I'm not flying behind myself.
Well, so yeah, and that's one of those things too where, your body will block part of the signal, right? I mean, the less things you have between, we're a bunch of water and meat,
yep.
and we block. Although I've heard that actually, if you break us down on the atomic level, we're like 99% nothing. Atoms are actually 99% nothing. For those of us that are not as everyone who is not as well versed in this as you, take it down to a really simple level. Let's say I'm flying a Mavic Mini. Okay, or a Mavic Pro 2. What can I do? And I think a lot of people in the chat already know this, but I think some don't. What can you do to make sure that the antennas are the best they can be for the most consistent range?
With factory made antennas, especially on the DJI equipment, where the antennas are fairly well built into the controller. The best thing you can do is hold it as not as far out, but hold it at a reasonable distance, especially if you're using a neck strap.
So you don't want it right against your chest or belly.
No, you don't want to put it real close, because your body, maybe we ought to back up a little bit as far as what affects it.
Okay.
At the frequencies we run at, which is 5.8 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz, 1.3, 900, and 433 megahertz. Okay. At the upper ends, which is the 5.8 and 2.4, the things that affect that frequency range the most is water and dirt. You don't want to put dirt between you, but water in particular. Most people don't realize their microwave ovens operate at 2.45 gigahertz. That is almost the exact frequency we operate on our equipment.
So turning on a microwave and flying FPV indoors could really mess with it?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, because I mean, the way a microwave works, as I understand it, is it excites the water molecules in the food. And
that is correct.
That excitation, that energy is what makes the food hot. So
that's right.
So what you're saying is, if a drone were to go, that's probably why so many of these little submarines that they make don't have wireless connectivity. They're all tethered, right? Because
yes, that's correct. But there is a way around that. You just have to run it on a different frequency. You have to go down below 27 megahertz, which is significantly lower than what we run on what we have now.
Okay. So the tip number one, just, getting down to the really basics, is don't hold it right up against you. Keep it out here, kind of like this,
Yeah, put it on a neck strap and just hold it away from you just a little bit.
And that'll make a difference.
Right. Make sure those antennas, because on most of the DJI stuff, the antennas are designed to fold downward. So you want them to fold downward, but slightly.
Right. You don't want them flat out like this. You want them
That's
up
correct.
Like this, right? Because the energy comes out of this part. Actually,
the antennas in those antennas, the actual antenna part. If I've never pulled one apart, but I'm going to assume it's more of a panel antenna style. One of these times I'm going to pull it apart and actually look to see how it's designed.
So I don't want to fly like this.
That's correct. You want to fold them down to where the flat part of the antenna is facing up, say like at about a 30-degree angle, because the craft is going to be up at about a 30-degree angle to you most of the time of where you're flying.
So this is kind of aiming, at a 30-degree angle up away from my body. So this is going to be giving me, and then do I want them parallel, or do I want them slightly off axis?
Actually, I don't think it matters too much on the DJI equipment, because it uses an up and down link. And I'm not sure if they use one antenna for the up and one for the down, or how the electronics work in the DJI system in that way.
Do these broadcast from both sides? Meaning, is there energy shooting out this way and this way, or is it just one way? Just that
I'm not sure of. Like I said, I've never taken the DJI antennas apart to look to see what style of antenna is in there. Like I have a Mi 4K camera drone.
Okay.
The antennas on that transmitter are nothing more than a dipole that's inside the two antenna pieces. That one I've taken apart and looked at. So I'm not 100% sure about the DJI. If it's a dipole, then the way a dipole works is that if this was the driven element, the energy is radiating out in a donut pattern. So if you can just picture a donut all the way around.
Yeah. Microphones are often like that. Like the pickup pattern on a microphone can be kind of a, it's called a cardioid mic, because it's like a heart, shaped like a heart.
Correct. That's a directive mic. But the way these work is as a donut. So if you got the antenna pointing like this, then the energy is pointing this way, and you're actually flying off the tip of the antenna. So you're going to get poor reception or poor connection.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so if the controller has the type where, like my controller for my Mi 4K, the antennas point downward. So when you hold it, the antennas sit about like so. So the energy is actually radiating upwards out towards the craft.
But a mistake that people make, and I've made this mistake early on, was flying with these things out flat like this, because I was basically shooting the energy down into the ground. So
straight up, yes.
Or straight up. So having them up, or just to where, like you said, essentially the flat part is facing your drone.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the
That's
optimum.
I'm gonna guess there's a few folks in the Sunrise Water Media says it's cool, but I understand about 10% of it. Here's the
That's
thing.
okay.
Here's the thing, Chris. Put your antennas like this, not like this. That's the
correct.
takeaway. Fold them up and aim the flat part towards the drone. That's kind of what I was getting at.
That's right.
So I just recently switched over. This is the DJI part of the digital system for their digital FPV, which is amazing. I just recently flipped over from that to this is the radio I was using before, the Tyrannus.
Oh, the Tyrannus, yes. That's what I use.
It's a great radio. I mean, I assume that I want to have my antenna like this, not like that, right? I want to have it.
That's correct.
Okay, and I've had good luck, but just the difference between, I mean, really the camera. How can I get this? Is going to be the number one takeaway, because I know Brad Alston, who is in the chat right now. I know Chris Hope, who's in the chat right now. I know, I think Steve. I know Artco. All these guys are flying tiny whoops. How can we get better reception on a tiny whoop inside our houses?
Okay, if you're using non-DJI, so we're actually using FPV now.
Right.
The best you can do in a house is just try not to put any metal walls between you, because some houses actually do have metal studs. At the frequencies we run, what the signal does, it bounces off of it and causes what we used to call intermod. But what it's doing is because we run circular polarization, when it hits something, it bounces off of it and switches polarization.
Oh,
so you actually lose signal. So the best thing to do is just make sure you don't have a lot of metal between you while you're flying in the house. That's about the best you can do. The next thing you can do is having well-tuned antennas. And that's really the hardest part for a lot of people that don't know how to make them. And by buying factory antennas, like I have this one here that is a, let's see, I think it's...
Is that called a cloverleaf?
Yes. Well, there's two types. There's a cloverleaf, which is 3 lobes, and then there's the skew planar, which is 4 lobes.
It's the lucky clover, the 4-leaf clover.
Right. And then there's also one that Alex Greaves, who is with VAS Aerial, Video Aerial Systems, he also designed an Airblade, which is a 6-element one. And it's not in the rounded element size, but it's more of a diamond-shaped element. And there's 6 of them. And surprisingly, to date, that is still the best antenna I've ever built as far as for transmission and reception.
With six curls.
Yep. The only problem, it is a royal pain in the rear end to line those things up when you're trying to solder them together at the same time.
Well, so two quick things. First of all, thank you, Adam Johnson, for the super chat. Great advice, and love geeking out on antenna tech. I do too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of thing. It's not the sexiest thing, but it's like plumbing. If it doesn't work, then it's not great, right? You want to make sure it works. So
the biggest problem is it only works okay most of the time. I hear and see so many people complain about their analog FPV feed being snowy. They get poor reception and all the different things.
Yeah, all of that.
And the 2 biggest things that cause that is poorly matched antennas, or a problem with part of the elements in one of the antennas, or moisture, flying behind trees, flying in moist air of all things will actually cut the range.
Like on a rainy day or a humid day
or a foggy day.
So let me ask a question that popped into my head while you were talking about the 6 what do you call those, loops or folds?
Well, they're lobes. They're lobes.
Okay. The 6 lobes. So I have several 3 and 4 lobes that have been bent. So maybe I sat on it, or maybe I dropped it, or whatever, and the antennas are kind of they're a little warped. Hey, another super chat. But does that mess up the? Does that actually mess up the like having them like bent in or bent out a little bit? I assume that messes things up.
It does affect the pattern more than it does the match. So you try to straighten them back out as best as you can. At some point, you
I
bend them
do,
to a
yeah.
point where it's just better to go either buy or make another antenna.
Well,
So
it's just like propellers, right?
that's
At some
right.
point, like okay, I got a little nick, I'll keep going, or
That's right.
this is bent, I'm going to bend it down. It's all good. But at some
Yeah,
point, okay,
to give
you
you a
need
good
to
example,
change the prop.
here's a good example. This one is a one that I've had for about a year, and I have bent it, tweaked it, put it back, resoldered it, and it still works. But you can tell some of the lobes are not exactly the way they should be
They're
anymore.
a little out of whack. So
Yeah,
Chris
versus
Hope,
this new one, which is I just finished putting this one together right before we went live, and this one's all nice and pretty and pristine, and this one goes on the goggles. So, but it's the same. This part here is the same element that will go on the quad. The only difference is this one I've got set pretty rigid. I actually use semi-rigid coax. Let's see. I don't think I have. No, I don't have one here. But I use semi-rigid coax, and then I found these, which are party balloon straws that you put balloons on.
nice.
They are the exact size to fit over the semi-rigid coax, and it makes this to where you can still bend it, but it's got a lot of rigidity to it, to where it doesn't just get all floppy on you.
And it protects it a little bit too.
Yes.
Okay. So two things that just popped into my head. So if you're
Okay.
using an antenna on your quad that has 4 lobes and your goggles that have 3, is that a mismatch?
I have had. It's not a mismatch. They're just two different styles of the antenna.
Okay.
I personally have had best luck with reception and clarity and all of that when I use the skew planer, the 4 lobes on the quad and a 4 lobe on the goggles.
Okay.
I get the best reception out of everything.
And those ones with the plastic ring on them, the little plastic dome, that's covering a metal antenna. Is that just to protect it?
Yes, this if I don't think the camera would be able to pick it up, but this actually has 4 lobes in it, I believe. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3. Yep, this is actually a skew planer inside, and all this is just to protect the elements from getting bent, damaged, or whatever.
Okay.
But anytime you put something over a radiating element like this,
you're kind of stopping it a little bit.
It shifts the frequency.
Ah.
It will actually lower the frequency where the antenna matches at. So you have to take that into account when you design something like this. So, which is why all of mine, I don't put anything over them. So I just design them for 5,900 megahertz and then assemble it, and it will tune up around 58-ish megahertz consistently.
So the plastic, maybe they actually tune it a little bit higher and then they put it on assuming it's going to go down a little bit. Would that be something that might happen? Okay.
It's a maybe. That's the best I can say.
Well,
this one is a Fat Shark one made by Immersion RC, and Immersion's pretty good on a lot of their antennas.
I think they also do it for branding, right? They can put their name on it. I want to give a quick shout out to Brad from Virginia. Brad was here all weekend helping me out last weekend. He is actually the one who managed a lot of the giveaways. We did so many giveaways that I needed someone just to write it all down. He gave me all the addresses. He gave me all the emails. So if you won something, you can thank Brad for getting it right. So thanks for the super chat, Brad. I also want to say hi to Thomas Ariels over in good old Ireland. He's over in Ireland. I would love to fly drones in Ireland. Man, that's got to be a beautiful place to fly.
Oh, anywhere in the old world. Absolutely.
So Chris Hope was saying just a minute ago in the chat that he has trouble with going behind trees. And, it's because they have a lot of water and they can have a lot of mass, et cetera. Is there any hints for that? Like a more directional antenna, or, those little square ones? Are those considered patch antennas?
Well, yeah, you have a couple of different types. You have patch antennas, which are more PCB designed, where they actually print the antenna on the PCB. Then you have what they call a crosshair, which is Alex Greaves at Video Aerial Systems pioneered. That one is not a patch. It's an actual element where it looks like a crosshair, but it's one element is one side, one element's the other on the ground side of the coax, and they're cut at a certain dimension to create a circular polarization. Then you've got antennas like that. This is a helical antenna. Now, for us in the FPV and in the drone community, we've looked at this and go, wow, that's new. I've never seen anything like that. Surprisingly, they have been using this since the 60s for space communication.
Wow. So you're talking millions of miles.
Yes. And the size of the antennas they use aren't small like this, because this is very high frequency. The size of the antennas they're using, the circular part right here, is this big around because of the lower frequencies they're running.
And they're very directional, right? They have to be really pointed at the target.
Yeah, these are all directional. So this antenna here, let's see here. I keep a cheat sheet because that's how I make them. This antenna right here, this is 3.5 turns, but at 3 turns, this has a 75-degree beam width. So if you can picture 90 degrees and then just kick it in a little bit, that's the beam width that this antenna receives in or transmits in, because this can transmit or receive.
Okay.
But bear in mind, you wouldn't want to put
both.
Like
if you put two of them somewhere and you were trying to send a signal, would it be a very directional signal going from point A to point B?
Absolutely. You can point one at another, and you would have a very direct connection between the two antennas.
So here's a question for you, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot because you may or may not know the answer, but how the hell does DJI do Ocusync? I mean, what WTF Ocusync?
Ocusync, you have to understand, is a form of, it's a mode of communication. So they're still using the same bands we're using. They're still using the same amount of power-ish, depending on the system. But what they have is a different mode that is transmitted over that frequency. And that's what makes it work the way it works.
You mean video compression, or do you mean?
Yeah, they're doing some fancy magic in there in that bandwidth that they're using. So and yes, that's pretty much it. It's just a mode. For us, we're using analog on these, and on Wi-Fi it uses a different style of transmission.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why no other company except maybe Skydio and I guess maybe who makes the Evo, Autel. Why no one else can get that crystal clear, 1 kilometer away thing, the thing that, I mean, all of the cheaper drones, and maybe it's a cost thing, but all of the cheaper drones that I've gotten, I get sent toy drones all the time, and anytime it says, Wi-Fi, connect to your phone via an app, it's crap. It's like 30 feet away, and it's just dead. So
it has to do with the mode of transmission.
Okay, I will say actually
it's not the frequencies.
Are you familiar with the Bugs drones, like the Bugs 3, the Bugs?
A little bit. I've seen most of your videos where you have them and have flown them, and
they're some of the better. Well. They're some of the better toy drones, and the Bugs drones actually, I think it's the Bugs 2. It actually can get 500 meters away, half a kilometer away, and still give you a pretty big signal over Wi-Fi. So anyway, now
my Mi 4K is a Wi-Fi type of drone. Now I'm not sure how exactly the type on that one, but I've had it 3/4 of a mile away. And
really?
And it's worked just fine.
So is that like clear line of sight 3/4 of a mile? You could still pretty much, it wasn't no mountains between you and it.
No, I was actually on a road flying up to a cliff face that was about 500 feet high, and it was about 3/4 of a mile out to get to the one end, and I was going to fly across the ridge. So, and I had complete control, complete connection. I had clear video the whole way.
That's what always blows me away too, though, about Ocusync is Ocusync doesn't seem to give a damn about trees. It doesn't give a damn about buildings. You know what I mean? I mean, yes, you can certainly don't go out and try something crazy with Ocusync because you can lose signal. But I have had my quad or I've had my Mavic, or I guess it's mostly the Mavic or Phantom 4 Pro V2. I've had it just way far away, with stuff
Yep.
between me and it doesn't care. It just
Yeah.
keeps sending me a signal.
It has something to do with how they do their mode. Yeah, the form of communication that they're using.
That's their
There must
IP.
be.
That's their
Oh
IP
yeah.
that just kills everybody else, right? I mean, their
Oh
drones
yeah.
fly great, but at the end of the day, even now with the so a funny story. Sean Oz. Um,
Oh yes.
I went out to his dad's house and his
Hmm.
stepmom, and I just put a little FPV video out, and it was awesome. I got to fly with Original Dobo and Brennan
Oh yeah.
and Brad, who was in the chat, was there, and we all flew. Anyway, his parents, who are both in, was dad and his stepmom, who were both probably in their late 70s, early 80s, I'm guessing.
Hmm.
They had never seen FPV before, so
Oh
um,
wow.
a few people have done this, but I have two sets of goggles, sat them down, took them for a ride, and they were both, it was pretty cool to watch them in that age kind of experience this. But
Oh yeah.
his stepmom, said to me, "Hey, can you go over to the neighbor's house? Because I want to see, they're building something. I want to see what they're building." And it's a big piece of property, so they're out in the
Yep.
country. So this is a ways off. I'm like, okay, I'll try. I figured I'd give it a shot.
Yep.
So I went over probably a kilometer away. A good what is that, 6/10 of a mile with the
Yeah, it's a little over half a mile.
DJI FPV system, no problem
Yep.
at all. I kind of got a little
Yep.
nervous. It started getting pretty pixelated, but she
Yep.
was able to see what they were building, and I flew back, and it was all good. I just cannot believe how good the FPV system is. Oh, hey, Alan, thank you for the super chat.
Yes.
So,
And then Rick Halber had a question. He asked about the poker chip antenna.
oh yeah,
The
yeah.
poker chip antenna is a form of a PCB type, and from what all the counts that I watched and read about it, it didn't perform quite as well as they'd hoped. And I think it's just a matter of the tuning and matching and all of that you have to do when you create an antenna.
Well, so if people are getting into flying with Fat Sharks or an Omway or some of the other analog goggles,
Mm-hmm.
what are important things? Like, I'll tell you, my typical setup is I have a Team Black Sheep. I think it's a
Okay.
patch antenna. It's a little square.
Yep. That'll
And
be a patch one.
I
Mm-hmm.
put it on one side, and then I have on the other side, if it's one with two sides, I have just I think it's a three lobe clover
Mm-hmm.
leaf.
Yeah, you'll have something like this. Yes.
Yeah, not that tall though.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's shorter.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it often gets like loose and kind of falls down. It's bad if
Yep.
it falls down, right? It should be up.
Yep.
Okay.
It needs
Okay.
to be tight.
Well, so
Typically when I put mine on my goggles, I'll thread them on by hand, but then I take a pair of pliers and I wrench it on to where I make sure that it's on tight.
So to ensure that I'm getting the best signal, are those the two? Oh, and then with my Fat Sharks, I have the little module that goes on it. I forget what the module's
Mm-hmm.
called, but the little digital, it's got
Yes.
the digital display.
Mm-hmm.
On that one, I have the patch on the bottom, and then I have a little adapter that kind of like a 90-degree adapter, or actually a
Mm-hmm.
45-degree adapter that takes it up and out, because otherwise I can't get
Yep.
the patch on. Is that okay,
Right.
or am I losing signal?
You do have a little bit of loss if you put any kind of an adapter between the module and the antenna. You'll always
Okay.
have loss. But like this one here, this is the one that I've run quite a bit, and I will always put the omnidirectional, because that's what this is omnidirectional. I'll put that one on top, but then I'll take this one and put it on the bottom one.
And by the way, I made a snazzy thumbnail for this, and I don't think it showed up for some reason, because you sent me a picture
Yeah.
of you wearing that setup, and I
Yes.
made this cool thumbnail, and it didn't show up. I'm gonna check with this is that software that I'm using, the beta software.
Yes.
But I will put it on the replay version. But so that setup is your typical setup for analog?
Yes, this is my typical setup for analog. Let me tighten it up real quick, because this one does tend to want to fall.
Hey, Dennis.
There we go.
I also just
Okay.
want to give a quick shout out to Dennis Lovelady, because he was one of the people. Now I was trying to stay neutral with the songs. He was one of the people that put the song in. I don't know if you know that, Chris, but his song was the ukulele one. I don't know if you heard it, but
I
if you
didn't get to hear all of them. Yeah.
let me tell you, you cannot frown or be upset when you're playing the ukulele or listening to it, and he plays it like a
Oh yeah.
beast. So thank you,
Oh
Dennis.
wow.
I loved your version of it. So
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome.
All right, so let me show you something about this. And this is the reason why I'm building this one, is because of what we talked about before about what affects these antennas is moisture, water. How much water's in your head? The moment you put these goggles on, where's the antenna?
Yeah,
Everything
it's right
here
there.
you're blocking the signal. So by taking this and you're now putting it over your head,
Okay.
which also helps with the signal pattern and with being able to receive. If you do go behind you, you'll keep a good signal because this one is directional. So the moment you go behind this one, this antenna, this one switches to the other antenna.
So you're basically doing two different patterns.
Correct.
Okay.
This one is omnidirectional and this one is directional.
Now, see, I've been told not water. I've been called something else head, but I'm not going to mention that here. Another thing that I think smells bad and blocks signal. So,
Yes.
so Brad Hendo has a question, and I think it's a fair
Let's see,
question.
where is it?
You've seen these
There we go.
adapters you can get that are supposed to give you range extension. You know, it's
Okay.
like they're almost like
Yes.
tinfoil. Do those
Mhm.
work?
Okay, here's the catch to them. They need to be placed at the right distance away from the back of the antenna, because that goes back to this antenna design. This is called a reflector. So those pieces that go on the back of the DJI type antennas, that is actually a reflector. It's acting as this part, and it's just receiving the signal and focusing it on the driven element, which is this part.
Okay.
And effectively, that's what this does if this was a receiving antenna. If I pointed it this way and the signal's coming in, it's going to absorb all the energy here and reflect anything that might go past back to the antenna, which increases its gain. And that's what you're doing, is increasing gain.
So when you put those, you know what I'm talking about? They're usually gold or silver.
Yes.
They look like tinfoil. Those are just basically focusing that energy.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So for $20 or $10, you can actually increase the energy. However, it's only going to work if you aim the right direction, right?
That's correct. And also bear in mind, you're not increasing the energy. RF energy
collecting
is
more.
Finite. That's right. You're just collecting more of what's already there and focusing it.
I love that. Yeah. So Mel from 400 AGL asked, what's a good module for his Fat Sharks, since he currently only has the default one connector?
Okay. The one that I have, this is the True D, and man, it works really good. I've been very happy with this, and I've had it on 2 sets of Fat Sharks now. I've had it on my my non HDOs. This is an HDO. I have the one before it. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but I had it on that one first, and then switched it to this one when I got these. And man, it just keeps working and working and working, and I've been real happy with it.
What do you think of the HDOs in general?
The HDOs have the 4x3 screens, and quite honestly, I like the 16:9 setup better, and it's just a personal preference thing.
I do too. We're all used to 16:9 displays these days, right? It's just almost a weird.
Well, it's more of what you get used to while you're flying. For me, I started with box goggles, so I had a real wide field of view in the box goggle, but it literally was making me cross-eyed. You know, I'm an old guy. I still got to wear glasses just to see it in there. So when I went to
what did you say was the name of that module? What was the name of the module that you recommended?
True D.
TRUED?
D.
Okay.
True D.
All right. Cool.
That's the one that I use, and I've been real happy with it. But as far as the goggle size, I got used to the box goggles, which had a nice wide view in there.
Yeah.
And when I got the first set of goggles that I got, they had the 16:9 setup, so it was similar to what I was already used to. Then when I got the first pair of Fat Sharks, they were 16:9. So then when I got these HDOs, they're 4x3.
So I
and
had
it's
what was
definitely
what
different.
was your 16.9 Fat Sharks? Because I had the Dominator
Oh,
and the Dominator
ah,
twos were
Dom,
4.3.
yeah, Dom V3s. That's what it is.
Oh, they switched from 4.3 to 16.9 in the V3.
Yes,
Okay, and
yes.
it's funny because I thought the HDOs were kind of the top of the line for Fat Shark right now. Is that fair to say?
The HDO2s are.
HDO2. Okay. Do you
Yes.
have them?
No, I just have the HDOs.
Okay. I was curious if it was worth the upgrade.
Yeah, some guys think so, and I got to give it credit that the things are fantastic for what they are. But for me and how I fly, the Dom V3s are fantastic. The HDOs are nice because they're a little sharper and clearer, but I sacrifice that extra field of view on the sides, especially when you're flying up here where I fly, up in the mountains and in the trees and, out in the desert areas and things like that, where you got to kind of watch where you fly because of the tree branches and things that pop out of nowhere.
Yeah, especially with analog. So
Mm-hmm.
so let's talk a minute about DJI system FPV. So, as I said,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I said this in the description, I feel like a lot of folks who were previously or are currently into flying DJI drones with Ocusync and using their
Yep.
phone are switching over, starting to do a little
Yep.
FPV, play with it a bit, which is awesome. It'll grow the entire hobby. We all rise together,
Yep.
kind of thing. So that said,
Absolutely.
I have been recommending personally. I'll tell you, I dabbled in FPV since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a bunch of FPV drones. I built one. I had the
Yep.
Dominator V2s. I had the Omways. I had Omway Commanders. I had
Yep.
I had the HDOs, of course, and Tiny Whoops. But really, the game changer for me that just lit me on fire was the digital system, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just because you were talking about tree branches. You can see tree
Yep.
branches. You can see
Yes.
birds.
Yep.
You can see wires. You can see everything in those as long as you're not
Yep.
like miles and miles away and you got your antennas properly placed. Um,
Right.
what's your opinion of someone starting with analog versus starting with the digital system?
Well, I think it comes down to dollars and cents. I mean, if you don't have a lot to spend, start analog.
Yeah,
You can get a very inexpensive set of box goggles that will work just fine to get started. And you're not going to be out anything because if you do decide to stay with it and get a good pair of goggles or move up to digital, but in particular, just move up to a better set of analog goggles, you now have a ride along set of goggles that you can hand somebody and say, here, watch.
that's great.
And that's the best part about it. If you have the money, though, and you want to go digital right out of the gate, then absolutely the DJI is well worth it. But there's just a little bit higher expense getting in started with
The problem
with that.
the problem too is you will get spoiled, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
if you start with digital and then you go back to analog, you're going to be like, wow, this is really fuzzy,
right.
and so it's kind of one of those things too. And they don't make digital tiny whoops yet. You're not going to be
Nope.
flying really digital
Nope.
indoors yet. You could
It
maybe
has
fly
a
the
weight
KFRC
issue.
rocket. Yeah, they're still big units. It'll get
That's right.
smaller, of course, but no, I've been saying the Tiny Hawk 2 Ready to Fly kit is a great way to start
Yep.
if you just want to learn how to fly, and then you can still go in and adjust things in beta flight. And you get a better controller and
Yes.
better goggles and all that
Absolutely.
stuff. But if you just want to turn it on, have it bound, have it set up with the 3 modes and all that stuff,
Mhm.
the Ready to Fly. Do you have a favorite Tiny Whoop that you like to fly?
Right there.
Oh, which one is that?
This is the Beta FPV or the Beta 75 Pro. And I don't even know if you can get them anymore, but this is the one that I actually won this from Albert Kim. And man, I tell you what, I have used and abused this thing. And it goes full acro mode. I was out in California and had a buddy. I says, well, see if it'll Matty flip. And he was sitting there Matty flipping this thing over a tree branch 6 feet off the ground. And it's like, can't argue with that.
Did you buy that as just a unit and bound it to a Free Sky radio or something?
Yes, this one
Okay.
comes Free Sky, and
Okay.
that's what it was. I didn't do anything to it other than bind it.
It's really funny you held that up. We did not plan this. So I don't think Jay, do you know who Jay Santiago is? Jay's
I
in a
don't think
lot of the
so.
chats. So he was my subscriber of the month.
Okay.
I actually sent him that very drone as subscriber of the month.
Yep.
Just recently sent it out to him. And yes, I mean, I have a lot of tiny whoops now, and so I'm just like, okay, I can't keep all these, but that's the one I sent him,
Yeah.
and so I'm glad to hear
Well,
you like it.
I'm bringing this one up to spin down, so we're gonna have some fun with it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm gonna bring the Tiny Hawk 2 and the Tiny Hawk Freestyle. Those are my two favorite right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll have one there that you will definitely get a chance to fly and see, actually be able to feel the difference between a smaller drone and a larger FPV drone. I've
Nice.
got this one here. Whoops, knock the picture down. I've actually got this one here.
Oh,
This
that's a
is
beast. That's a beast.
yes, this is the let me make sure it's in frame here. There we go. This is the Project 399 practice rig.
Wow.
Jet FPV from DRL Racing is the gentleman that designed this because they didn't have any practice machines to practice with in the off season.
Wow.
So this is the exact dimensions and as close to the exact weight of the DRL Racer.
That's a beast
And
too. Those things are.
It is a beast.
Man.
This thing weighs over 2 pounds at flying weight.
Wow.
Now, the one thing I did different than full DRL is I put a little bit higher KV motors on it because I wanted to be able to have some fun with it, not just practice race. So I went with a little higher KV motor, a little smaller stator diameter, and it works wonderful. I get 7-minute flights out of this thing.
That's
and
awesome.
just have a blast with it.
So. Well, hey, so real quick, I do like to wrap this up around 7:55 because Osby Drone starts at 8. Actually, starts at 7:55, and so I don't want to step on his toes. If anybody's watching and you want to go check out Osby Drone, he's on next. Doc, any other way? Can people buy your antennas, by the way? I really want to get a hold of one.
No, actually, well, I'm going to be bringing you a set for you to play with that I'm making.
Nice.
But as far as doing this themselves, go look up IB Crazy, just like it sounds, all one word, on the RC forums, and look up Alex Greaves' tutorials on how to build these things. And the numbers he has there they're dead on.
Nice.
Just dead on.
So it's like a blueprint.
If they don't, yes. So if they don't want to build one, though, I highly recommend buying them if you can. If you don't feel you can build them, the VAS antennas, the video aerial system antennas, quite frankly, are about as close as you can get to handmade antennas out on the market.
Okay.
Then, from there, you've got, you start stepping down to Immersion RC and a number of the other, good antenna makers. I would avoid any of the ones from China.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
please.
if they're cheap, they're cheap, right? And
they are cheap. Perform. Yes. There is no doubt they will not perform.
I'm going to upgrade and see what difference it makes. And maybe that'd make a good video. It's like compare some cheap Chinese ones to your hand built ones. Well, hey, Chris,
I mean, even the one that I got that's commercial built, I can tell the difference. So,
well, thank you so much for being on tonight. I really appreciate it. This was entertaining. I think this is one of the highest watched speed dials I've had so far. So thank you for that.
Oh, super.
And I will see you in about a week.
Yes, we will be up there. I'll be up there Friday morning with Sean.
Cool.
And I'll be helping him set stuff up.
I will be there as well. So thank you for coming on. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm looking over at the screen because I'm looking at the chat. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll be doing this again next Friday from Colorado. So you'll probably be on again next week from Spin Down.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you for the information. I feel like I need to have you on again for a part 2 at some point. So
there's a lot.
You guys take it easy, and we will see you next time on Ready, Set, Drone.
Have a good one, guys.